Hello there, it's Tim Kelly, and thank you for joining me again today. Today I want to just give you a quick primer on my portrait studio sales. As I mentioned to you before, and you know by now, we specialize in portraiture, studio portraiture mostly, location, remote work when we need to perhaps give a client something different. But we do certainly prefer the indoor studio work. That's my signature work. Now we're in my sales room today, and I might show you some cutaways, but the purpose of this couple minutes is to let you know the history of the things that we've been through, so you can perhaps, as you learn more, glean some experience. And that is, in the earliest days of portrait photography, we showed paper proofs. That was the step one, and that goes back 100 years. Then in the 60s, we started projecting those proofs, putting them in an opaque projector and putting them on a screen. But even in those days, you're only showing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 images, and that's it. Then in the 70s, we started to be able to make slides from our negatives. Yeah, negatives. You guys, a lot of you don't even have ever had that experience, but for decades, we produced beautiful, large format negatives. So we would have slides made from them so we could put them in a Kodak ectographic projector and show them on a screen to help people see them in the appropriate sizes. Now, I ran into a problem in the late 80s when my black and white photography far exceeded the color, and there was no way to make black and white slides. But I will tell you, when I finally figured out how to do it, and again, I had my own laboratory, when I began to make black and white slides, I started selling very large black and white artwork. And that was a huge success for me, and carried on for several more years until early digital came. Now, the early digital for me was converting those negative images on a machine that I'd rigged up into positive video stills. Video stills was a very short-lived technology, maybe 5 years. The Kodak Prism was based on that, capturing a simultaneous image on film and a little floppy disk. So it sounds haywire and crazy, but that was one of the steps pre-larger digital cameras. And I began to play with digital cameras as a supplement to my film cameras in the early 90s. And by 1992, we were still doing video stills with film, but we had the Kodak system, and it worked beautifully, and we made a ton of money because for the first time ever, we could show the pictures immediately. Pretty magical indeed. But digital really caught up about 1998, and that's when we started getting into the Kodak professional cameras, which were in the tens of thousands. As I said in another little minute episode, I believe it was about 30,000 for the first one. And it was a 6 megapixel camera, but it was beautiful. It really was beautiful. 1620 was as big as you could go. And from then, as you know, progress, megapixels became important, and every 6 months a new model would come out. So we spent a lot of money getting into digital. But I just preface that to show you that sales were dependent on the capture format and what you could possibly show. So I went through paper proofs, projecting paper proofs, color slides, black and white slides, still video images on a floppy disk, and then finally digital captures made simultaneous with the film camera. And that was very short-lived, about 1 year or so. In fact, just to fill in the blank, Polaroid, when they existed, also made another system that mounted a 35 millimeter camera on top of my Hasselblad. While I was shooting film for the final product, it was making 35 millimeter slides instantly. So when we finished the shoot, We process the slides, snap them in mounts, and show them. So that was a very tiny little sliver, but these were all the steps that got us to where we are today. And of course, we show digital and we project. So we project digital today. This is 2018, for those of you watching another time and place and space. 2018, we are shooting large digital and we are projecting onto a screen in our sales room, and that is how we make our sales to this day. One final tip for the sales room, and there will be many episodes on sales, is show less. Of all the things we've talked about today, the most important thing is show less. I often shoot 100 images on a session, 200, 300 on a high school senior, but I show an average of 12 to 24 images in almost every case. And guess what they're looking at? Just the cream, just the best of the best. So try it, show less, and have a great day.